Welcome to my spoiler-free review of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. By spoiler-free review, what I mean is I try not to talk about the plot any more than what's implied or explicitly stated by the ads for the movie. I also like to give a quick context for my review. In this case, I'm someone who generally likes animated films. I liked, in this particular case, the most similar movies are the Shrek series, where Puss in Boots kind of come out of or spun off from. And I like Shrek and Shrek 2 a lot, especially Shrek 2. I think I may have actually liked Shrek 3 more than 1. That's close. And then Shrek 4, I don't remember anything about, so I don't remember how much I liked it at all. I think I felt like the series was kind of running out of steam at that point. Even 3, the plot was a little iffy, but I think it ultimately worked. But this is not a review about Shrek 3. This is a review about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. The other thing I'll mention is that I actually didn't see the first Puss in Boots spinoff. I thought I may have, but I recently watched an ad for it out of curiosity, and I didn't really recognize it, so I don't think I watched the last one. And having said that, I had no problem following this movie. I don't know if the last one was any good. I remember not hearing good reviews about it, so maybe that's why I didn't watch it. But this one, the first act is excellent and made and reestablished the character and did a great job of setting everything up so that the last movie really isn't necessary at all to watching this one. The setup is pretty simple. Puss in Boots, a longtime adventurer, who set out for fame and fortune and, all of the acclaim that comes with being an adventurer and all the adrenaline rush and especially the fawning over by everybody, like what do you call that when everybody's just cheering for you and stuff? Acclaim, all that makes you feel good about yourself, externally. And he's all in for that. But unfortunately, he finds he's down to his last life. And that's like a thing that they introduced. I'm not sure they ever said that before, that he could die 8 times. It'd be cool. I think this is the first time they're mentioning that. But that's fine. That's in the first act. So that's stated and that becomes, part of the canon of the show. And so he's down to his last life. And suddenly he becomes very fearful of whether or not he'll live, and suddenly he's not quite as courageous anymore. And there's a reason for that. Again, I don't want to go too much into it, but he finds that the veil of death, the shadow of death, a lot more present in his life than previously. And so he discovers, over the course of the first act, he discovers a magical wish that can grant him the ability to ask whatever he wants, including all 8 of his lives, or I guess, the other 8 of his lives back. So he sets out on an adventure to find that. And along the way, he meets people, and there are a lot of really good, cool characters that he interacts with on his journey. As I mentioned before, I hadn't seen the last Puss in Boots movie, in part because I heard kind of bad things about it. So I went into this movie a bit reluctantly. Turns out it's been getting really good buzz, and it turns out for a good reason. If you look at all of the Shrek movies, all 4 of those, plus the 2 Puss in Boots movies, I would rank this movie. I obviously can't include the first Puss in Boots movie because I haven't seen it, but I guess the 4 Shrek movies and this one, I'd probably put it second after Shrek 2. Shrek 3 might be it might be close neck and neck with Shrek 3 or Shrek 1. I'd have to watch those again. We'll see which one I really liked better. But I think it's second best after Shrek 2. It really did a great job of giving us a good heroic journey for the character of Puss in Boots. And right now I give it an 8 out of 10. I'm definitely going to see it again eventually, and it might up it to 9 out of 10 depending on whether or not, it really holds over well. The biggest thing I want to note about it is the animation style. I noticed watching the previews that it looked a little bit different. It reminded me a bit of what they're going for with the Spider-Verse animation, but not all the way there. From what someone told me, the animation style involves a bit of playing with how many frames per second you're being shown. There's some specific effect that's being done, and I'm not sure exactly how that's done, but I did see some of that in Puss in Boots. It's a little jarring when you first see it because it almost seems like you're suddenly switching an animation style. So sometimes it looks just like all the other Shrek movies, and probably the first Puss in Boots, although again, I can't tell you for sure. But then sometimes it switches. It almost looks like we're suddenly in a Enter the Spider-Verse type of animation style. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think that for the action sequences, they sometimes make very good use of it. But then there are other times, also usually during the action scenes, where it almost feels like the movie's just slowing down and there's it's a jarring break in the action that they're trying to emphasize something, but it doesn't quite have the effect I think they might be going for. So bear that in mind. It's a little bit of a weird effect. They're like, motion lines that they're kind of putting in, and sometimes I think the animation gets a little bit blockier. It's an interesting effect, but for me, it was kind of a mixed bag in terms of how much I liked them having it. I thought it probably worked fine if they hadn't used it at all, but it definitely had at least some cases where it worked pretty well. Another way this reminded me of the Shrek movies is how much they really made use of the whole fairy tale universe. I don't want to talk too much about the various additional characters, except to say that they're really cool. They do one particular fairy tale that they take from, or I don't know what you would call that, what the best way to describe it is, but let's just say fairy tale, or kid story, however you want to refer to it, that they make use of. I'm not even sure if that's in the that might be in the preview, but again, I don't need to spoil you on that. But it's really cool, the dramatic dynamic that they come up with for the characters from that fairy tale or children's story. They also have some really cool antagonists that kind of also, to some extent, play on fairy, again, kind of stretching to call it a fairy tale where one of the antagonists is from. But they've got several antagonists. It's a complicated plot, but they manage it really well. And that's one of the things that impressed me about this Puss in Boots movie is they set up several dramatic arcs / subplots, however you want to describe them, with various characters. It isn't just all about Puss in Boots. It's about a lot of characters revolving around him and involved with this quest to get the last wish. And they did a really good job managing that. That's why I think the second act is a little bit burdensome, because they have a lot they have to accomplish to get from Act 1 to Act 3. And Act 3, I think, resolves things very well. There's a lot of stuff to resolve, and I think it does a really good job of pinning everything up and leaving with a fulfilling conclusion. But that second act, they've got to do a whole lot to like kind of herd those cats, as it were, to keep the movie flowing on right to the third act. But they do it, and they accomplish it. And so I think that's a credit to the screenwriters and the story editors, whatever they call them for animated movies. Maybe a combination. But they did a really good job doing that. And for that reason, it's a story that is probably, it may be the best, just from a story standpoint, of all the, again, the animated series, of all the Shrek movies and Puss in Boots movies, just in terms of the story they told. Not necessarily, how funny it is or how exciting and how much I enjoyed sitting down listening, just in terms of the complexity and drama of the story. That's probably one of the top selling points, is that aspect of it, the story you get told if you go see it. But it's not all serious. It's a very funny movie as well, and they got some really good action scenes. That's the other thing too. Some of the best action scenes I've seen in animated movies in general, not just even Shrek movies, including all of the ones that have come out in the last 5 or 6 years. There's some really cool action scenes in this movie. Very well done. They provide the kind of in-the-moment suspense of what's going to happen, even though certain characters, if you think about it, have certain levels of plot armor. But they keep you on the edge of your seat very well with their action scenes. And so it's a movie that really delivers on all fronts. That's why I'm saying it's an 8 out of 10 now. Might end up being a 9 out of 10 after I rewatch it and see if it really passes that kind of test, that rewatch test. So I hope that was helpful for you. If you're still here and you like the movie, if you like this review and you're not hate watching, please consider liking it and maybe even subscribing. I'm trying to make this video to help deliver people good movies to watch. I'll make some videos about bad movies, but really my focus is on making videos about really good movies, ones that I enjoy watching and I think people in the YouTube community would also enjoy watching. So if you're here for that journey, please subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching Low Key Classic Movies.